Homage to fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all lineage benevolent masters. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in a million eons. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings from samsara, generate supreme bodhicitta. Teaching, the words of my perfect teacher. In the words of my perfect teacher, we are now teaching refuge among the uncommon preliminaries. In the section on refuge, we have already discussed the importance of faith. With sufficient faith and reverence, one receives supreme blessings. Without sufficient faith and reverence, one cannot receive blessings. Regarding this aspect, we have given extremely profound teachings. Everyone should contemplate this repeatedly. Actually, in our current practice and study, we ourselves must make aspirations and contemplate from the heart. This point is especially important. I have also mentioned that many great masters of the past would daily read at least a few pages or chapters from the words of my perfect teacher. In this way, over time, they would continuously increase their faith. 2 days ago, we transmitted Finding Rest in Illusion. During the transmission, I told everyone that material offerings were not necessary. If any of you wish to make Dharma offerings for Dharma offerings, among men and women, the women first wrote quite a few reports of Dharma offerings. After I mentioned this in class, the men also, whether genuine or not, wrote very many reports. Thank you so much. After reading these, I still felt very joyful. I have many representative letters here, some of which, if there's time, I'll read to everyone later. I see today there's one person who made aspirations, but this Dharma friend may not want her name mentioned. That's fine if not. We can read it once. Now let's have a Dharma friend read her Dharma offering. But think about it. Perhaps many people, how do they practice Dharma together and do virtuous deeds together? In this process, I think this person must be sincere, not just speaking words, and in actual actions too, probably doing this every day. If doing so, perhaps one person's virtuous actions might exceed those of several lazy people, reciting so many sutras, so many Buddha names, and reading 2 pages of the preliminaries, etc. When I first came to the academy, I also felt sleeping 4 hours was too long. Perhaps some aspirations, now that this vow has been made, but as one ages or later becomes busy with work, it may not necessarily be achievable then. But regardless, it's good that everyone has such aspiration, so we should examine ourselves. Now let's continue with our teaching. Today we teach, if one lacks faith, even if encountering a true Buddha's guidance, there will be no benefit, just like the previously mentioned Bhikkhu Sunakata and the Buddha's brother Devadatta, etc. So without faith, even encountering a true Buddha, a genuine Buddha, one gains no benefit. Regarding Bhikkhu Sunakata and Devadatta in our world, there is no greater accomplished master than the Buddha. Personally receiving teachings before the Buddha for such a long time was still of no avail. Some people often say someone spent so many years at the Buddhist academy receiving teachings before the Guru for so many years. How could they still do such things, still give rise to such thoughts? They also say these things to others. Actually, this has a certain relationship with one's spiritual capacity and faith. People without faith, let alone ordinary spiritual teachers, will not see the Tathagata's wisdom as having virtue. The Buddha also said in the Sutra of the Arising and Manifestation of the Tathagata, though the sun illuminates the world, the blind cannot see it. Beings who have lost their original purity do not believe in the Tathagata's wisdom. The meaning is that although the sun illuminates this world, those born blind cannot see the sunlight at all. Similarly, if some individuals in their mind streams develop wrong views or lack pure faith, they may not develop true faith even in the Tathagata's incomparable wisdom. So whether you're ordained or have studied Buddhism for many years, it's not necessarily very good. Of course, from a worldly perspective, it's very good. But sometimes, if you cannot arouse faith, there's truly a great difference compared to beginners or those who have just entered with some faith. This possibility also exists. I remember in the Buddha's Ekottara Agama, there's also a brief story. At that time, the Buddha was teaching Dharma to many ordained Sangha members at Bamboo Grove Monastery. While teaching Dharma, there was an elder monk in front of the Buddha. This elder monk was dozing off while stretching both feet toward the Buddha. His behavior and deportment were completely improper. He wasn't listening well at all. Nearby there was also an 8-year-old novice. This 8-year-old novice, with joy and reverence, was listening attentively to the Buddha's teachings with complete concentration. At this time, the Buddha told the ordained assembly, "In our world, if one's faith and wisdom are insufficient, even staying for a long time doesn't necessarily make one an elder. If the mind lacks faith, compassion, and wisdom, this is not necessarily very good." Then the Buddha asked, "Did everyone see this old monk beside us?" Everyone said they saw his behavior. "Did you see this 8-year-old novice's behavior?" They all said they saw it. Later the Buddha decided to say, "Superficially, this old monk appears to be an elder, but actually if your wisdom, faith, and compassion haven't increased, you're only an elder in appearance. Actually, if an elder practices well, even lay people, even non-monastics can be called this. In contemporary Han areas, generally only old monks or great monks can be called elders. Small novices or lay practitioners are not necessarily called this, but actually in Buddhist sutras there are also such cases." He said this old monk was actually a reincarnation of a Naga from a previous life. Then coming to this world, when listening to Dharma, many behaviors, dozing off, improper conduct, etc., after his death he would return to the Naga realm. Only later would he attain liberation. As for this novice, in his previous life he had very good karmic connections. Now through listening to Dharma, after 7 more days, he would also attain accomplishment. So among our many Buddhist practitioners, Dharma listeners, and cultivators, indeed sometimes one feels that spending more time doesn't necessarily mean it's very good. In our Buddhism, we often speak of Dharma oil children. Dharma oil children cannot generate any faith in the Dharma. They only say, "Oh, I've heard this teaching before, heard it before. Ah, I understand this teaching, understand it." Actually, they themselves have no correspondence with the Dharma at all. Such people are truly extremely frightening, so they're really no different from Bhikkhu Sunakata and Devadatta. Therefore, we Buddhists especially need faith. This kind of faith is best like what was taught before, irreversible faith. Even irreversible faith is difficult for ordinary people like us to develop. Without developing this, one should still have pure faith and eager faith. Without these, the basic conditions for entering the Dharma are already absent. So faith should be said to be very important. No matter who it is, if one possesses a sincere heart of faith and reverence, then praying now, the Buddha will descend and dwell before them, bestowing blessings. The Buddha's compassion for beings has no partiality and treats all equally, as is also said in the Buddhist sutras. Whoever practices with sincere intention, the sage appears before them, bestowing empowerment and blessings. No matter what kind of person, if they have reverence and sincere faith, and moreover pray constantly at all times, then no matter which deity or Buddha you pray to, this sacred being is constantly by your side, never having left, never having departed, continuously blessing you. So this scriptural citation also says, any person who sincerely focuses, visualizes, and meditates, then Buddha Shakyamuni is right there before them and constantly bestows empowerments and blessings upon them. Whenever we can visualize the Guru's body, speech, and mind, virtues, and activities pervade everywhere without exception throughout all of space. If we pray to any Buddha or deity, it is also thus. In Tibetan there is one called the Mahayana Sutra on the inconceivable secrets of the Tathagata. What does this Mahayana Sutra say? It seems the Inconceivable Sutra also has this. Actually, this also exists in Chinese, meaning as vast as space itself, so too is the Buddha's body vast. As space is vast and boundless, so too is the Buddha's body. Because the body is vast and measureless, the light is also vast in this way. Because the light is vast, the secret speech is also vast in this way. The secret speech is vast and measureless. The secret mind is also vast in this way. There are 2 verses that I see also exist in Chinese translations. What is the meaning? In our entire world, space is the most vast. Then throughout all the ranges of space, Actually, the Buddha's body pervades everywhere without exception, vast and boundless, already pervading the realm of space, as his body covers thus. The Buddha's Vajra speech also covers in this way. Also the Buddha's mind or secret mind, his wisdom also covers in this way. Light also covers in this way. Actually, light means virtues and activities. In Tibetan, light comes last. In Chinese, after body comes light. His luminosity is vast and boundless. There's just a slight difference in the positioning of light and body. Everything else is the same. The meaning is anywhere in this world. As long as you pray, the Buddha's body pervades everywhere. Even in your own room, everything is the Buddha's body. Buddha's wisdom, Buddha's activities and virtues. Whether you're on a train, on an airplane, on a bus, everywhere is pervaded by the Buddha's body. So if we can pray at any time, it's like when a water vessel is present. The moon's reflection from space naturally appears within it. Therefore, each one of us must, whether we have faith in the three jewels, depends on ourselves. If we ourselves lack faith, no matter how great the Buddha's blessings, they may not actually benefit us. The Buddha's blessings will never leave us. His blessings and his wisdom compassion, his wisdom will never expire or become outdated. Therefore, the Buddha in the Mula Sarvastivada Vinaya also has the same scriptural citation. Even if the ocean's tides might miss their appointed time, the Buddha's deliverance of those to be tamed never passes its time. Even if the ocean might have times when it leaves the waves, the Buddha never not guiding beings or not delivering beings, such a time will never exist, so we must pray constantly. This is very important. Some people ask whether there should be times when Buddha doesn't guide beings. For example, after a Buddha's teaching period is complete, we are not disciples to be tamed, so isn't this time expired? Actually, it's not like this. It's just that the time for the disciples he mainly focused on has ended. Actually, we know that any Buddha among the 1,000 Buddhas of the good Kalpa, when we pray using their names, we constantly receive blessings. We all know that within Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings, many accomplished masters have often seen Venerable Kashyapa, and many from the past, such as Buddha Vipassi, etc., have many wonderful biographies. So the Tathagata's blessings will never leave us. But we ourselves, truly sometimes due to insufficient reverence and insufficient pure perception, we regard the Buddha as having no blessings, treating him like ordinary things. This is our ignorance and delusion. Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava also said, "For faithful men and women, lotus-born goes nowhere to dwell. My lifespan has no time of death. Before each faithful one, I appear as one." When Guru Rinpoche was going to the land of Rakshasas, many faithful men and women of Tibetan areas requested him not to go, but to remain in the snowy land of Tibetan areas, always blessing and empowering us. Guru Rinpoche told them, "If you have faith, I haven't gone anywhere and constantly dwell here. Moreover, my lifespan has already attained the fruition of long life Vidyadhara and will never die. Before each faithful one, I appear as one Guru Rinpoche." For example, if I pray to Guru Rinpoche today and recite Guru Rinpoche's mantra, I constantly receive blessings before me, just like when a sighted person helps a blind person before them. One cannot see oneself, but actually not seeing doesn't mean it doesn't exist. When a Sangha cultivated great compassion and later met Maitreya Bodhisattva, he said, "Your compassion is so weak. How is it that I prayed for such a long time before you appeared, before I could see you, before you came?" He said, "I've never left. It's just that you yourself couldn't see." So praying before Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is very important. Without this kind of faith, we treat them like ordinary worldly spirits and ghosts, or think that praying to them has no benefit, no effect. This is behavior that fundamentally doesn't understand value. As long as one possesses confident faith, anyone will receive the Buddha's compassion. As people commonly say, if one has confident faith, an old woman relying on a dog's tooth also attained accomplishment and Buddhahood. Now below is a story well known in our Tibetan areas telling of an old woman who attained Buddhahood relying on a dog's tooth. What is this story? Long ago there was an old woman who depended on her son for survival. Her son often went to India for trade, and the mother said to this son, "If you often go to India, I have no other thoughts. How much money you earn there. For me as an elderly person, this is not very important. But I now have a request." "What is it?" India's Vajra seat is where the perfectly enlightened Buddha Shakyamuni was born, attained enlightenment, turned the Dharma wheel, and manifested nirvana, such a sacred place. You must bring me back from India, a supreme blessed object as an object of prostration. From such a sacred place of the Buddha, no matter what, you should bring me something. I prostrate daily and recite sutras daily. You should bring me a blessed object from India. Although the mother had repeatedly instructed him many times, the son forgot it all. Each time his memory was poor. Sometimes this unfilial son generally treated his mother's words as not particularly important, so he forgot each time. Each time he went to India for business, when returning, he came back empty-handed, never bringing back any blessed objects. Once the mother even began threatening him when the son was preparing to go to India again. The mother seriously told him, "If this time you still don't bring me back a genuine blessed object for prostration, I will commit suicide and die before your eyes. Let's see what you do then." This time the mother was truly somewhat unhappy. It wasn't just once or twice. She had already said it so many times. Each time he didn't bring even a little Buddha statue or blessed object from the Buddha. Even some tree leaves from Bodh Gaya would be acceptable. Jowo's Dharma robes would also be fine. Or, if really not possible, even a stone from Deer Park where the Dharma wheel was turned would be acceptable. But he never brought anything back, so this time the mother had made it very clear to him. The son went trading to India again, and during his return journey, he again forgot what his mother had instructed. Only when he was about to reach home did he suddenly remember his mother's words. When my mother told me this story before she said when he was about to see the tent, the son remembered. But now it seems it might not have been a tent because the origin of this story, whether it's from Tibetan areas, Han areas, or elsewhere, Tibetan areas aren't necessarily all nomadic. Generally, Tibetan nomads live in tents while farmers live in houses. If the son was a trader, he might have been from around Lhasa, so he wouldn't necessarily live in a tent. But among our folk, many people when very, very young often heard this story. One must have faith. Parents also often encourage children by telling this story. He was about to reach home, and at that time he remembered. He muttered to himself, "What should I do now? I haven't brought mother any blessed object to serve as a support for prostration. If I return empty-handed, mother will surely commit suicide." He became especially frightened at this time. Then he couldn't help looking around and discovered a dog's skeleton by the roadside. At this time, seeing that dog's tooth, he began to develop faith. The son was also somewhat bad. He immediately pulled out the dog's tooth. Since he was a businessman, he certainly had many colorful silks and satins. He wrapped it in silk and brought it back to give to his mother, saying, "Hey, you must pay attention. This was especially difficult to obtain. I spent a very long time in India before I could buy this back for you. This is Buddha Shakyamuni's tooth. Where was it? It had become a dog's tooth. I hope you will use it as a genuine object of prayer." This son was very bad, bringing his mother a dog's tooth. Originally she needed a Buddha's tooth, a blessed object from the Buddha, but instead, the mother was also somewhat simple. Otherwise, human and dog teeth certainly have some differences, but the mother treated this dog's tooth as a genuine Buddha's tooth. She probably wasn't like some people in our big cities now with extremely many discriminating thoughts, very complex. When something is genuine, they instead generate various wrong thoughts. Especially people without knowledge, without merit, without right view, generate extremely many wrong discriminating thoughts. People with merit and wisdom easily generate right view, while wrong discriminating thoughts don't come so easily. Just as explained in the Sutra of the Right Mindfulness of Dharma, evil people easily create negative karma, but don't easily create positive karma. Good people easily create positive karma but don't easily create negative karma. So worldly people are just like this. But at that time she didn't generate discriminating thoughts and developed extremely strong faith in it. She often prostrated and made offerings, and later the dog's tooth produced many relics. When the old woman passed away, rainbows, light circles and other auspicious signs appeared one after another. When the old woman died, there were especially good auspicious signs. Actually, this wasn't because the dog's tooth possessed such blessing power. If dog's teeth truly had such blessing power, we wouldn't need to go to sacred places to seek the Buddha. Dog's teeth could be found everywhere, so we cannot think in this direction. We cannot think, "Oh, whenever there are dog's teeth in the future, we must bring blessed objects to parents. Dog's teeth have great blessings." In Tibetan areas before, there were also stories of attaining Buddhahood, relying on dog's teeth. We cannot understand it from this direction. Then from what direction? Rather, through the old woman's strong power of faith, she believed it was a genuine Buddha's tooth. In this way, the Buddha's blessings merged into the dog's tooth, so there was no difference between the Buddha's tooth and the dog's tooth. So relying on the dog's tooth, she also received genuine blessings. So we can sometimes also see, as long as you develop genuine faith toward the other party may not necessarily be a genuine support of virtue, but because of your faith's influence, the other party naturally becomes a genuine person of virtue and blessings. So this kind of faith is extremely, extremely important in the Dharma. This is not only in Tibetan Buddhism. Actually, Han Chinese Buddhism also especially emphasizes this. For example, in Master Yin Guang's collected works, there's a sentence that can be said to be the same as this content. He said, "To obtain the real benefits of Buddha Dharma, one must seek them through reverence. With one portion of reverence, one eliminates one portion of negative karma and increases one portion of merit and wisdom." Just as Patrul Rinpoche taught earlier, the greater one's reverence and faith, the greater the blessings received from all Buddhas. So if you have one portion of reverence, you have the ability to purify karma and also the ability to increase wisdom and merit. If you have no reverence at all, it's especially difficult for the blessings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to merge into your mind. So faith truly is what allows us to transcend many adverse conditions and sufferings in this world through faith. How much more so can other simple responses be obtained? I remember in the Buddha's Dhammapada, there's a chapter on steadfast faith, which mainly teaches many principles of faith. At that time, when the Buddha was in Shravasti, on its southeastern side, there was a river on its southeastern side. The people by this river, about 500 households, all made their living by fishing. Later, once the Buddha perceived that the conditions for transforming them had ripened, he sat under a tree with his body radiating light. At this time, many people gathered there, feeling curious. They had never seen a person's body emit light, so they came to observe. While observing, the Buddha taught them Dharma, but they didn't develop faith and couldn't be transformed. At this time, the Buddha manifested another person from his own body who came from the riverside. When coming from the riverside, he walked across on the river water. That body didn't sink into it, and at this time people all felt it was somewhat rare. Everyone asked, "What kind of skill do you have? How is it that in this water is quite deep? How do you not sink down?" Later, he said, "I have this kind of faith." Someone said, "If you just have this kind of faith, you won't sink into it. I came here relying on this kind of faith." At this time, everyone discussed this and later asked the Buddha. The Buddha said faith is especially important, then spoke a verse. "Faith can cross the abyss, taking reverence as the boat captain. Diligence removes suffering. Wisdom reaches the other shore." Later, these people all relied on his such behavior to develop faith in the Buddha. After having faith, the Buddha transmitted the 3 refuges and 5 precepts to them, and they were immediately transformed. So, faith is especially important for us now. Some of our Dharma friends say, "Alas, my family members and friends really have no way to study Buddhism." This has a great relationship with faith. If the first step, having faith, exists no matter whether they are officials or people of any status, they all have opportunities to enter the door of Buddhism. If you don't even have faith, you fundamentally don't believe in this approach. If you fundamentally don't believe, no matter how good a person you are, how wise, how compassionate, it actually won't work. You fundamentally won't enter this door. So this faith of ours is indeed also very important. With faith, look at that old woman just now. She had an especially devout kind of faith. She wouldn't think left and right. Hers was very pure faith. There is a Buddha in India, and the Buddha's tooth has appeared. So we sincerely pray. At such times the genuine blessings of the Buddha have appeared. including many of our Dharma friends, for example, toward protection cords or a book or a Buddha statue, all have great faith. The greater your faith becomes, the more obvious this Buddha statue's blessings become for you. It's not necessarily that the object of your refuge and prostration has especially good quality. I remember before there was a practitioner from my monastery. This practitioner was very good. For about 10 plus years he had been wandering around sacred mountains in the Lhasa area. Wandering these sacred mountains, all practicing, continuously practicing alone. He had already recited, it seems, 100 million Manjushri mantras and then went elsewhere. A while ago he came down briefly and we had some contact. At that time he was carrying something from long ago. 15 years ago I had given him a copper statue of Guru Rinpoche. The quality of this copper statue was very, very poor. At that time I seemed to have gone to the Barkham area. Once I saw it in a shop, like it seemed to be 5 wen or something. Then I bought a Guru Rinpoche statue for him. When I returned, I gave it to him as a gift in passing. Then at that time he probably felt there was some auspicious connection and never separated it from his body. I looked at it. He said for 15 years it hadn't left his body. I looked at it. That quality was just so-so. I said, let me change it for you. I now have a Nepalese Guru Rinpoche statue. Let me give it to you instead. He said, no. Although the quality is like this relying on this Guru Rinpoche statue, I have dispelled many of my obstacles on the path. When he went to India last year, what he feared most on the road was whether it would be confiscated when passing through customs. As it turned out, it wasn't. I said, that's impossible. If Guru Rinpoche dispels your obstacles, yet can't dispel his own obstacles, that's impossible. Actually, this kind of faith of people is truly still very crucial. If you don't have faith, something worth 6 or 7 yuan to carry on your body for 15 years is absolutely impossible. So since he had such faith, I believe that in his practice process, relying on the statue, he would also have dispelled his obstacles or received many uncommon blessings himself. So each person should have a kind of pure faith. This point is very important. Furthermore, in the Khenpo region, there was a fool called Jowo Ben, an especially foolish person. Once he went to Lhasa to pay homage to the Jowo statue. Actually, the Jowo statue was brought to Tibetan areas by Princess Wencheng long ago. It's enshrined in what is now Lhasa's Jokhang Temple, a statue of Buddha Shakyamuni at 12 years old. A while ago, a leader said he could never understand. He was a young man, half Tibetan, half Han, who didn't understand Buddhism at all. He said, Ayya, how could a copper statue brought by a Han woman be so revered by Tibetan people? People who don't understand history or blessings sometimes sound rather ridiculous when they speak. At that time, when he went to pay homage to the Jowo statue, there's generally this saying in Tibetan areas that people who come to this world without seeing the Jowo statue feel great regret. So many elderly people all wish that at least once in their lifetime they could prostrate once before the Jowo statue. This is their heart's greatest aspiration. Some children, in order to repay their parents' kindness, when they themselves have sufficient conditions, in all respects must bring their parents to Lhasa to pay homage to the Jowo statue. There's such a tradition. Now it seems that among young Tibetans, they don't care about this aspect. When they have a little money, just like some cities in Han areas, they insist on buying parents a house or a bicycle. Just kidding, bicycles there aren't any. At that time, before the Jowo statue, there was no lamp keeper or any other person, so that Khenpo Ben, Khenpo is the place name, came before the Jowo statue. He saw on those offering tables many foods and butter lamps. In his mind, he thought of the Jowo statue as if it were a person. If everyone was going to pay homage, he felt this might be a genuine person, a living person. Then he thought, oh, the Jowo statue takes this tsampa. Tsampa refers to sacred food, tormas, dips it in the butter oil from the lamps before eating. He felt the Jowo statue was still quite enjoying itself. Look, there's so much tsampa and so much butter soup. Very good. His life isn't bad at all. To prevent the butter oil from solidifying, fires were lit. He felt about the offering lamps. He had probably never seen offering lamps. He felt that to keep this butter from solidifying, fires were lit. However Jowo enjoys this, I should enjoy it the same way. Aren't I Jowo's guest? I've come here from a very distant place. So he dipped the tsampa tormas in the butter oil and began eating. After eating, while looking at Jowo's countenance, he was also somewhat worried in his heart. Having eaten all of Jowo's food and drunk all the drink, he feared whether Jowo might be somewhat unhappy, so he slowly looked at Jowo's face. At this time, Jowo seemed to look especially majestic and very compassionate. We all know the Jowo statue's expression is smiling, especially kind. At this time he felt, oh, my eating his tsampa and butter soup probably doesn't make him unhappy at all. Very good. He immediately began praising. He said, when sacred food is carried off by dogs, you still smile. When butter lamps are blown by wind, you still smile. You truly are a good guru. Was he? He said, your food was the dog himself. Whatever happens to food and such things, you don't mind. You truly are a good guru. However others enjoy the food before you, you don't get angry. You truly are a good guru. Please keep my shoes safe for me. I'll circle around you once and come back. Then he took off his own dirty shoes and placed them before the Jowo statue. Very dirty. That person truly seemed quite foolish. Taking them off and placing them before the Jowo statue, he went to circumambulate. Generally, people who go to Lhasa circle around outside a few times. Right at this time, the lamp keeper came and saw these shoes before the Buddha statue. Then all these things before Jowo. The lamps had already, the butter soup had been drunk up, the sacred food eaten up. The lamp keeper was probably extremely angry. How could such a foolish person do this? Then he immediately prepared to throw these shoes outside. Right at this moment, the Jowo statue spoke personally. Khenpo Ben entrusted me to keep these safe. Don't throw them out. He was probably scared out of his wits. This Khenpo Ben must be an especially remarkable great master. At that time, Khenpo Ben had already returned and began retrieving his shoes. He said, you truly are a good guru. You gave me a very good meal and kept my shoes safe too. Now I have already seen what I should see of you. I'll return to my hometown now. Next year, please come to my hometown. I'll slaughter an old pig and stew pork cook, aged barley, and brew barley wine, waiting for you. He said, today I must bid farewell. Next year you must come to my hometown to visit. He was probably from a farming area. Generally, our Tibetan pastoral areas don't raise pigs. He was probably from a farming area or something. The best food in his own home was probably pork and barley wine. He prepared to use these two to entertain him, then prepared to leave. At this time, Jowo again, personally, this Buddha statue spoke, saying, all right, I'll come. I've already agreed. The lamp keeper was probably already stunned. This Khenpo Ben returned home and told his wife too. He said, I've already invited Lhasa Jowo Rinpoche to be our guest. I don't know when he'll arrive, so you must often not forget. Often watch to see whether he comes. You must often look and pay attention. He will definitely come. On a day in the second year, when his wife once went to the river to fetch water, she clearly saw Jowo's image in the water. The wife immediately returned to tell her husband, there's a person in the water over there. Is it the guest you invited who fell into the water? This wife also had faith. She also saw it. He immediately ran to look and indeed saw Jowo Rinpoche appearing in the water. He thought Jowo had already reached the door and fallen into the water. So he jumped into the river without regard for himself and began fishing out Jowo's body. He truly grasped hold and pulled him over. Due to his faith, he still had something to touch. He had already grasped him. Then carrying him toward home, he began happily pulling Jowo along. They proceeded toward home. On the way, there was a large boulder. When they reached this point, Jowo told him, I don't go to lay people's homes. Now since I've come this far, I should go. From such a distant place, coming from Lhasa to Khenpo isn't easy. Perhaps Jowo thought that if he went to a layperson's home, since Khenpo Ben had already prepared pork and fine wine, if Lhasa Jowo drank wine and ate meat, it would leave a bad impression in history. Just kidding. I'm just joking. He refused to continue forward and merged into that boulder. Later the Jowo statue naturally appeared on the stone. Due to his power of faith, it came to be called the Jowo stone. The river where Jowo's image had appeared was called the Jowo River by people. It's said that to this day it still has the same blessing power as Lhasa Jowo. Moreover, endless streams of faithful devotees also often prostrate and pay homage to it. Actually, some elderly people before, many elderly people from Tibetan areas going to Lhasa, some prostrated all the way to Lhasa, some walked there. It wasn't like now with convenient transportation. Taking trains, regular buses and airplanes, it wasn't like this. Before, they went up from the social side. When going up, they had to pass through Khenpo. When passing through Khenpo, they often, it's said, this still exists now. At that time, many elderly people going to Lhasa passed through Khenpo, saw the Jowo stone statue and Jowo River, then went on to pay homage in Lhasa. This is also fact, not a legend or mythological story. Absolutely not. It's a genuine fact. Khenpo Ben completely relied on his firm faith to receive the Buddha's compassion. Otherwise, if an ordinary person drank the butter soup before Jowo and ate all the sacred food and Thomas placed before Jowo, and also placed unclean shoes before the Jowo statue, how could there be no fault? It's impossible. But because at that time, through his power of faith, he instead received such merit, Jowo had already spoken to him twice, and later had already appeared in his hometown. A genuine Jowo statue had also appeared. So truly, when our faith is sufficient actually in daily life, we often receive such responses from Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. In our Tibetan areas before, there was also this saying, there was a child whose mother had already passed away long ago. Then, having no mother, when playing with many other children, his heart was always especially sad. In the place where he lived, there was a carved stone statue of green Tara. Then this child treated it as his mother. Often when he had any kind of joy, anger, suffering or sorrow, he would immediately go to Tara Mother and confide in it, speak to it, for a very long time. He treated Tara's stone statue as his genuine mother. In his own mind, he had a sense of comfort. Later, once when he was bullied by others, he was especially heartbroken and began crying while embracing the stone statue. Later, Tara personally spoke and personally held him in her embrace, comforting him and bestowing some teachings. Moreover, on Tara's stone statue there was a necklace, an especially good necklace. She gave this necklace to him. This child suddenly obtained a necklace. Among other people he said, "This is what my mother gave me." Others all said, "Don't you have no mother? Aren't you an orphan? How could a new mother appear now?" Then he said, "This is what my Tara mother gave me. If you don't believe it, go and see." Because local people all knew this stone-carved Tara was very famous. Later when they went there, indeed, the necklace on this Tara's neck was gone, and there were no traces at all. It was simply gone. From then on, everyone developed even greater faith in this Tara. Stories like this are quite numerous, indeed very many, so we also cannot think, oh, these are all superstitions, these are all legends, these are all mythological stories, using such tone to completely obliterate all these very mysterious facts. This is foolish behavior, so if we develop reverence toward the Buddha, there should be such great blessing and merit power. Not only this, but directly realizing the true nature of ultimate truth also depends solely on faith. We're not talking about various responses in the conventional world, but truly realizing ultimate truth and realizing the true nature of emptiness is also obtained through faith. The great perfection is also realized through faith. The middle way, including Introduction to the Middle Way, also teaches this. People who have faith in the teachings of emptiness can become genuine vessels. As also said in Buddhist sutras, Shariputra, ultimate truth can only be realized through faith. Through the arising of uncommon faith after the Guru and Three Jewels blessings merge into one's mind stream, naturally genuine realization will arise. After the conditions of the Three Jewels blessings and one's own faith are complete, you can realize. Only when seeing the true meaning of reality can one truly have unwavering faith in the Guru and Three Jewels, giving rise to extraordinary, irreversible faith. From this we can see that realizing reality and confident faith are mutually supportive. It should be said that when realizing reality, one's faith in the Guru and Three Jewels is extremely, extremely great. If you have faith in the Guru and Three Jewels, then realizing emptiness has no difficulty whatsoever. So even if we have just one moment of faith in the Buddha, we will not fall into lower realms and and have very great merit. Speaking from the conventional truth, it's also like this. Just as is also taught in the Shrigupta Sutra, with single-minded reverent faith in the supreme teacher beyond the world for countless hundreds of thousands of kalpas, one will not fall into any evil paths. If you have one moment of faith in the Buddha, you will not fall into evil paths. So generating faith is especially important because we encounter such Buddha or Dharma, it can protect everyone. As seems to be taught in the Lotus Sutra, the world-honored one is extremely rare and difficult to encounter, possessing immeasurable merit, able to protect all, and so on. There are many, many scriptural citations. Formerly, when Dagpo Rinpoche was about to depart, he asked Venerable Milarepa. Dagpo Rinpoche was different from Rinpoche. Rinpoche stayed before Milarepa for an especially long time, but he violated the Guru's instructions 3 times, so didn't attain accomplishment in that lifetime. When Dagpo Rinpoche first came on the day he heard Milarepa's name, uncommon faith arose in his mind stream, and he generated the intention to follow instructions. When he first met him, he was in monastic form, but when Milarepa told him, "Drink wine," he immediately drank wine. Then after this auspicious connection was accomplished, the time he stayed wasn't long, unlike other people. Dagpo Rinpoche stayed before Milarepa for 13 months total, just over a year, and later already realized and accomplished. After accomplishment, Dagpo Rinpoche once saw 7 Buddhas, many Buddha realms. At this time he asked Venerable Milarepa, "What did I see?" He said, "This is the form body's image." You can see the Dharma body's image later, meaning truly recognizing one's mind's nature. We see the Dharma body. This is the form body's image. You'll see the Dharma body's image later. Now you should go to Mount Gampopa to propagate the Dharma and benefit beings there. Go there to establish a Dharma center. He made him definitely leave. Then, following instructions, he prepared to leave. When leaving, he also asked the Guru this question. He said, "Venerable One, when can I accept disciples and propagate the Dharma to benefit beings?" When can I accept disciples? Just going there to build a monastery won't work. May I accept students? The Venerable told him, "Once you become completely different from your present mind, and in your mind stream arise realization of directly seeing mind nature, and you also regard this old father as a true Buddha, when such firm faith arises, you can accept disciples." He said, "When you reach a certain point, your own mind nature, your mind's original face, has some new recognition at that time. Toward Venerable Milarepa, toward me, it will be completely different from before. Before you regarded me like an ordinary person. At that time there will be no difference between me and the Buddha. At that time you accept students." Actually, this is also a very important teaching for us later students. Many people say after coming and listening to 2 or 3 classes, "May I go back and accept refuge disciples? I'm preparing to make an especially beautiful refuge certificate. Please give permission. If you give permission, I'll immediately go accept large numbers of refuge disciples. If there are capable ones among them, I'll keep some and offer all the rest to you." Some people also have this attitude. Milarepa then gave him prophecy about that Mount Gampopa, saying this sacred mountain is equivalent to a mountain like a king sitting on a cushion. On this mountain, approximately at the neck area, you should build a monastery and then can train disciples and propagate the Dharma to benefit beings. Later, Gampopa went there to build this monastery. The Dagpo Kagyu lineage transmission appeared from there within the Kagyu school. Moreover, disciples of his lineage spread throughout the entire world, extremely many. When he was leaving, Milarepa also accompanied him to what seemed like a forest with a river in the middle and a small bridge over the river. Then at the bridge, Milarepa said, "I won't cross the bridge. If I cross, the auspicious connection isn't very good. I'll send you off here, you leave." Then Gampopa prostrated at the Guru's feet and kept crying. It seems the biography says that crying at that time wasn't very auspicious. It says there was an inauspicious connection, but I forgot the reason for this problem. Anyway, at that time, he left with great reluctance. Later, Dagpo, being a person of sharp faculties, didn't depend on the Guru for very long, but later truly came to recognize his own mind nature anew, and reached a state where there was no difference between Venerable Milarepa and the Buddha. His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok also often taught before, when we regard our root guru as no different from the Buddha and the guru's pointed instructions, especially when recognizing mind's original face, then accepting disciples and widely propagating the Dharma is very auspicious. This is also such an auspicious connection, so here too faith is taught. Accepting disciples also requires faith. Therefore, the Guru and Three Jewels' compassion and blessings merging into one's mind stream depends solely on reverence and faith. Reverence and faith are especially important. Formerly, a disciple of Venerable Atisha, directly called Atisha by name. Generally in our Tibetan, we often call Venerable Atisha Jowo. He directly said, "Jowo, give me a blessing, okay?" Then Venerable Atisha seemed somewhat displeased and said, "Bad student, be a little respectful. Blessings are obtained through reverence. You're just speaking words." Some biographies also say he forcefully knocked on Jowo's door 3 times. Then said, "Jowo, Jowo, give me a blessing. My body isn't well." Then Venerable Atisha said, "Blessings are not obtained by knocking hard on doors." Then Venerable Atisha didn't give blessings. Actually, if any person, whether toward a guru or toward Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, has no reverence, it's impossible to truly receive blessings. We also usually encounter some people who fundamentally don't believe in Buddhism, or people without faith who come saying, "Please touch me. Just tap me with that Bodhisattva thing." Then when tapping them, some seem to have like a steel pipe throughout their entire body. They can't even bend. With this kind of attitude, they can't receive any blessings at all. We often encounter such cases. It can be seen that only with unwavering, uncommon faith and reverence can one open the door of refuge. If we want to take refuge, you certainly must first have faith. Without faith, there's no way to enter the door of refuge. So faith is an indispensable condition for each person. Good, we'll stop here.
Bandara Bandara